What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. It's been a pretty packed couple of days, right? But I think we're just about done. I mean, all of the press conferences are wrapped, and now we're kind of just in the middle of E3 where everyone's trying out the games, and they're putting more information out as we go. Nintendo, of course, is going to be having their Treehouse stuff going on throughout the next couple days, and they've been actually dropping some pretty good announcements. For example, the Octo expansion for Splatoon 2. Well, that's out today. It was weird. They announced it yesterday. Just go get it tomorrow. So a lot of Splatoon 2 fans probably hit the ceiling realizing I can go get it tomorrow. There were actually a lot of same day or next day announcements at E3 this year. I think every company had at least one, and that's pretty cool. Like I said, in the Treehouse, so I guess pay attention to the Treehouse over the next couple days because they seem like they are going to be doing some announcements as we go along. Also, if you did check out Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I think a lot of us did, you may have been noticing it's a pretty smooth-looking game. And, of course, people always ask about resolution in dock mode, resolution in handheld mode. Well, if you were curious or even concerned, you don't really have to worry. It does look like it is going to be 1080p docked, 720p in handheld, as we'd expect. That's the native resolution of the Switch screen. And it is like a flat 60 frames per second. It seems pretty legit. So if you were concerned about any of that, you don't have to worry. It's going to be a pretty good looking game as we've already seen, and an absolutely perfect performing game. And that's really the big thing that matters is performance, but doesn't look like they're sacrificing resolution. Now, I also wanted to go over who I think had the best conference total over E3, and it was I guess a little close. I don't know. I'm looking at all the presentations objectively with quantity and just games shown. And I have to say, Microsoft, I can't believe I'm actually saying this. I didn't think I'd be saying this for a while with what Microsoft has been doing recently. I think Microsoft did have the best conference overall objectively. They had a ton of game releases that they announced there. They announced first on their stage. It's something, you got to count at least. And then, of course, they show a Halo. They talk about all of the new studios they purchased. And then they casually drop that they are working on new consoles. We're going to get into that, by the way, today. They just said consoles, plural. So, really, they had the most at their press conference, and they showed us a lot of games. Boom, 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 50 games. I got to give them credit. Microsoft, I think, personally, was the best press conference overall. But I'm curious what you guys think about all the conferences and which one was your favorite, which one you thought was the best. I think it's pretty fun to do these, so let me know, guys, down in the comments. I'm very curious. Oh yeah, one other thing before we start. Hollow Knight was one of those big, it's available now games. I don't know if people have realized it yet. Hollow Knight is an awesome Metroidvania style game. I think it's one of the better games, definitely one of the better indie games of 2017, and that's somebody who loves Golf Story. It's an awesome game. It's a good 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania, and it hits 60 frames per second on the Switch. It's a fun-looking game, really. Like, it looks cool, the whole thing, and it's a good game. I would go check it out, and it's $15. That's significantly less than ATP World Tennis on the Switch. Oh man, that's sad. But guys, with all of that out of the way, let's get started. So Yoshi, have you seen this dinosaur? Because we're all looking for him right now, right? He was originally in a game that looked pretty cool that Nintendo was developing, an Unreal Engine. It didn't seem like something they wanted to tell people because Epic accidentally said that, and people saw it right away and jumped on it. It's a game that Nintendo is deciding to do an Unreal Engine 4, which is kind of new to them, but Miyamoto, of course, said that they were mastering it and everything, and they seemed pretty solid on it from what he was saying. Well, Yoshi does not appear ready for 2018. Bill Trinen even mentioned why they didn't show stuff like Metroid, for example, or Yoshi. It's because they don't want to show games that aren't ready yet, in the near future, right? Nintendo does directs throughout the year, and they don't want to show stuff that's too far off in the distance. I think Metroid Prime was heavy fan service, why they even showed the logo, because they just wanted people to know, you can look forward to this, it is happening in the distant future. I think Metroid Prime, by the way, is a holiday 2019 game, but Yoshi was originally a 2018 game. That's what we all knew it as, because that's what Nintendo told us it was. But when it didn't show up at E3, and Bill Trinen says it's not going to be at E3, we all kind of figure that has fallen to 2019. In fact, an eShop listing was updated on the UK eShop that mentions it as a 2019 game. So Yes, Yoshi looks like it's not coming out this year, which is a bit of a bummer because it looked like a cool direction for Yoshi. And I guess maybe they're having issues in development. That's very possible. Maybe Unreal Engine 4 isn't quite, maybe it's not quite working out for them yet and they're still working with it, need a little more time. Or it's also possible they were getting a look at the holiday lineup and they said, okay, we had to move Fire Emblem back, again, from development or release schedule. And Yoshi's just falling to next year. They don't technically need it. Listen, Yoshi's not like a megaton, right? It's not going to blow Switches off the shelf or something like a Pokemon or a Mario. It's not going to, or Smash. It's not going to do that. But I think it was pretty interesting and cool looking, and I would like to see more of it, but it looks like we're going to have to wait till, I guess, a direct that's scheduled for later in November or December to see more about Yoshi and maybe finally get a look at that Star Fox game. Next up, let's talk about Xbox because, well, this is fun. Of course, Phil Spencer decided at the end of their conference, for whatever reason, I don't know why they had to say this. I guess, again, just to reassure, there was a lot of reassurance at the Xbox conference. I think they knew they had to bring it, and they did, but then they also talked about buying studios, which I don't know how many actual, like mainstream gamers care about that, but they had to put that out there, and then they casually dropped that they are deep in development for the next Xbox consoles. Again, consoles, not just one, multiple systems. And that was very interesting to a lot of people. And it gets people, of course, thinking about it. People in the press and the media start asking questions. And now it looks like the word is going around that Microsoft is gearing up to actually show these possibly in 2019 and launch them sometime in 2020. The Switch has shown us you don't have to launch it in holiday. A lot of them like to because, of course, it gets a nice kickstart to the sales. But the Switch showed you can launch it whenever you want because if gamers want it, they're going to go buy it, especially with the Switch. That's done well so far, and it launched in March. Well, Thurrott.com posted an entire article talking about how this person got inside knowledge, went in the backgrounds and everything, started talking to people, and is extremely confident that it's codenamed Scarlet and that it is slated for a 2020 release, which, based on the window for the Scorpio, where they showed it to us a year and a half out, it would make sense for us to see the next systems, or at least have them talked about next year, next E3, because then that would give them a year and a half to kind of ramp up and talk about it more and show it and everything going forward and building up that marketing for a big 2020 blowout. Now, it's also possible that if it is a 2020 holiday release, they want to get through the holiday of 2019 with their system now, the Xbox One X, and all their games. And then when those all come out, then in like February, they introduce the next Xbox systems, and they launch them later on that year on holiday. That's very possible as well. They technically only need a 6-month build-up. I know Sony did that at one point, I think for the PS4. They mentioned it. And then they showed it in early 2013, I believe. And then they went through E3, and then they launched it later on that year. And it's interesting that Microsoft mentioned consoles themselves, because it's not even this person on Thurrott.com doesn't have to tell us that. Phil Spencer is the one who said consoles. And it does make sense that they would release a beast, a powerhouse system, right, for more. But a system below that, maybe they have a 500 and a 300. Or maybe they have a 600 and a 400. Man, would they do a $600 console nowadays? Oh man, that'd be crazy. I think a 5 and a 3 makes sense. Maybe they have one that is a beast and it plays those games. And then maybe they have one that's a little cheaper that the casual audience can buy without too much concern or possibility of buyer's remorse and still play the game just as a lower resolution. Maybe there's a 1080p and a 4K system. That would make sense. But I like that we're starting to hear about these systems, even from Microsoft themselves, despite me being an Xbox One X early adopter, because that's them just kind of laughing at us who spent $500 on the system. Next up, let's talk about a company who has been the complete opposite from what Microsoft has been to the consumer, which is Sony. See, Sony has no issues technically being anti-consumer about a lot of things. Nintendo is kind of the same way. Microsoft is the company that bends over backwards now to try to make consumers happy. They do it a lot. Really, they do. Well, Sony is probably the worst, I guess, at this point, because they don't do crossplay or anything, because they have built that lead where they want people to be forced in their ecosystem. Switch doesn't care, or Nintendo doesn't care with the Switch. Microsoft is all for it with the Xbox. And now we've seen, I guess, the next level of this from Sony. See, Fortnite came out on the Switch, and people got really excited. Even people who don't usually put it on their Xbox, maybe they just have a PS4, because there are a lot of people who have the PS4 and the Switch, you know, and maybe you do have a gaming PC, but I do know a lot of people who don't have an Xbox, and they have a PS4, and they have a Switch. Switch for the exclusives on Nintendo, PS4 for pretty much everything else, really, at this point. But Sony decided that it was a good idea to take your Fortnite account, your Epic account, and completely tie it to your PlayStation Network name. The thing you can't change names of, by the way. What's up with that? But they decided to tie your Fortnite account to your PlayStation Network name, or just your PlayStation Network account. So people went to sign in with their PlayStation Fortnite Epic account, I guess, on the Switch, and you can't. Sony's actually locked that, and Epic doesn't appear to be able to do anything about it, as they kind of tell you straight up when you try to sign in. They say they can't do it. They can't do anything. And it looks like it is an issue that comes down to Sony blocking crossplay once again, despite it being a third-party app and you're not actually trying to play with other PlayStation people. You just want to sign in with your Epic account, something that shouldn't be tied to your PlayStation Network account because it's an Epic account. This is weird. See, the Epic account lets you at least transfer the progress you've made on PlayStation over just by signing in. They kind of save it all for you. But Sony is, this is something else. I feel like this is something that Sony should be taking care of and kind of get out of their own way here, because this looks bad. I saw people that I usually see kind of praising PlayStation on Twitter just screaming at PlayStation, really. I mean, it was, you would think that the Sony name change issue wasn't a big deal with this. You see this online. It was crazy. I mean, there are people who probably have a ton of content that's now just locked up on their PlayStation when it comes to Fortnite. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So we'll see. Maybe Epic will figure this out with Sony, but Sony doesn't want any of this stuff on any other system at all. Let alone talking between them. They don't want anything to move over. So it's an interesting situation. I guess we'll have to see if Epic can come to some kind of agreement here with them or something, because at this point, the Switch and the Xbox and PC and mobile are all not only going to be able to play together, it sounds like they're doing cross-system chat even. And Sony just doesn't want any part of it. We'll see next generation if Sony falls behind again, if they change their tune a little bit, but we'll see. It's going to be a couple years before we even have to take a look at that. And our last bit of news, let's talk about Daemon Ex Machina. This was a game that might be going on some people's radars right now. It went under mine for a little bit. I did some research on it, checked it out, see who was developing it, what the idea was here. And now I have to say, this game might be one of my more anticipated games on the Switch at this point, because, and that's over Smash and other stuff. Let's get into this a little bit, because you might be surprised at some of the people developing this game. A lot of people got some Armored Core feels from this, and apparently it's kind of a spiritual successor to Armored Core. Let me talk to you about the developers, the producers, the art direction, people behind this. Now, we know Daemon Ex Machina right in the beginning looked very fast. There's mechs flying all over the place, and it did feel like Armored Core, like I said. But check this out. The first thing you're going to notice is the mech design might look a little familiar to you, and that's because the designer who's doing these mechs is Shoji Kawamori, who is essentially the designer between things like the Macross franchise or even the Armored Core series itself. Now, there's also Armored Core 2 and 3 producer Kenichiro Tetsukata, sorry about these names, and then the No More Heroes and Fire Emblem character designer Yosuke Kozaki, and the Soul Calibur composer Junichi Nakatsuru. Then they have Ryo Hamamoto for the Tekken series, and then Monster Hunter Stories director Ken Owada and the chief designer Ken Karabue. Now, this is a stacked lineup of people developing this game, and after I saw it and then more screenshots came out about it, I am really interested in this. This will be done by Marvelous and everything. And yeah, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this, because this is a 2019 game. A little disappointed there, by the way. But if this talent is behind it, take your time. If it has to fall to late 2019, I just want to see what they can come up with here, because they have the talent here to make an awesome mech game. And I'm really into these fast-paced mech games like an Armored Core, right? Even Zone of the Enders, but like an Armored Core. And the people behind this really really make this look interesting. So keep this on your radar. We might not see more about it for a little while, but Daemon Ex Machina is definitely a mech game that you should be keeping an eye on. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for Newswave today. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave a bunch of comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Microsoft possibly trying to develop their next line of systems, not just one, for a possible 2020 release. I don't think they're going to any sooner than that. I don't think it's a 2019 release, but I'd be surprised, and that would be very interesting to see what Sony does if Microsoft can jump out ahead again like they did with the 360, because that was a generation that Microsoft actually took over fairly quickly, and it took the PlayStation 3 quite a while to catch up. I think that was more Sony's bumblings and stuff that really did that. I don't think they're going to want to release another system for more than $400 at this point. Also, what do you think about Smash Bros? Great performance, great resolution. Looks like it's going to be an awesome system. Or even if you want to talk about Yoshi seemingly getting delayed to 2019, a shame, but maybe there's some issues. Maybe they just weren't comfortable with how things were shaping up in 2018 for a release window, and they just wanted to push it the next year, give some more development time, and give Yoshi a better shot at sales. I think that's why Fire Emblem also fell to 2019, by the way, is for that release window. And then what do you think about Daemon Ex Machina? Are you surprised by the people behind it? And are you now looking forward to this game more so than before? Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.